So it's like let's figure this out. How do we do this? So, and I know I'm taking a right turn from the show here, but getting off topic here, which we're going to make that part of the public shaming of Steve Wilson. We said, let's put this together. Let's see what happens. So we literally started with a 30-minute, no commercials, no guests, me and Kevin Chapman talking about sports, whatever it was. We didn't even have a name for the show at the time. And we were just like, we didn't have a scheduled time slot, which there is a story behind our 9/11 slot, which ties in with 9/11, and that's a huge thing that we're a part of, and we like to remember 9/11 every year, and certainly the last week or so that was a big part of that. But when we got the opportunity to have a regular time slot, Kevin had moved on, but when I got the opportunity to have a regular time slot, I said I want 9/11, and it might seem early, but really there's a method behind that. One, we want to catch you guys before you get caught up in all the national shows. Not that we're not national, because we are now, but also we just wanted to remember 9/11. So that's the story behind that. But yeah, a crazy thing. And then social media started kind of kicking up, and we started doing a little bit of grassroots stuff. Twitter came up. So we're like, hey, let's start. So we started getting more and more listeners. And then we moved to the platform that we are now. But it's crazy to think about how far we've come, and you guys, the fans, have made it happen. I woke up this morning and I'm like, I'm so sleepy, but my dedication to this show and giving you the utmost love. I am the diva of sports talk radio, right? Get it off your minds with the Antonio Brown crap. Antonio Brown, I'm done talking about him. We're glad that he's gone, honestly. We'll talk about him in the final segment again with Ed Kratz, just because we have to. Just because everybody else is talking about him. But that aside, the fact that there's so many issues with Antonio Brown, and I don't blame Nike for separating their ties, and I don't blame the New England Patriots for separating their ties, because everybody knows that was the best decision to make. What irks me about Nike, and I know, old man, get off my lawn, it's the difference between a rapist and a protester, but he's not a convicted rapist? Do I think he did it? Yeah. Am I minimizing it? No. But they're saying goodbye to him. The New England Patriots, no shocker. Nike, no shocker. The Steelers couldn't deal with him. He wanted to get away from the Raiders. I mean, his career is over. I can't see any team. The two teams that would take on such a mess did so, and it ended in disaster. I certainly can't see conservative teams like the Colts, obviously not the Colts, conservative teams like the Eagles, the Rams, the Chargers, even teams that may not need a wide receiver, and not necessarily that those teams that I just mentioned need a wide receiver, because they don't necessarily. There are teams out there that would love to have a great wide receiver of Antonio Brown caliber. But no team is going to come in. I'll be shocked if any team comes within a 10-foot radius of Antonio Brown. You talk about a dumpster fire. That's not a fire. That's a gosh darn explosion. And his career's over. And you know what? He's not going to get picked up by any network to be an analyst, air quotes. I'm telling you, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. I don't know when, but I know it's coming. And it's right around the pike. You can make book on that. For those of you that are bettors, you can make book on the fact that the next thing that we talk about Antonio Brown is CTE. He suffers from CTE, concussions. That's why he needed the helmet that he needed to have. Look, do we have to go through the archives of Antonio Brown since the Pittsburgh Steelers? Something ain't right with this guy. Something isn't right. You know what I do? I hope he gets the help that he needs, because God knows he needs some help, because something's going wrong. And maybe this is all part of being the person that pioneers the living testing of CTE. Because right now, the only way they can test CTE is when you're dead and they look at your brain matter. They can't do it when you're alive. Not yet. I'm sure they're working on that technology. And you know what? Maybe history will tell a story that he did suffer from CTE. Or maybe we got ourselves a drama queen, and that's all it is. And I personally, at this point, think that's all it is. But don't get me wrong. Something's going to happen with Antonio Brown. God, he's one of those narcissistic people that have to. I mean, he's the butthole of a human being. I mean, we can go through everything. That do we really want to do this? I mean, this guy is crazy in the most literal way. Again, mark my words. It's going to be CTE. Hey, but it's legal now in the state of Indiana and across the board. It's legal to do live betting, live sports book betting. Do it with caution, but enjoy it. It's about time. Speaking of giving, you know how I tell you I know everything, because I do. There's an app coming, and I don't know when, I don't know where. But isn't there an app for everything? So you got to believe there's an app coming where you can sit there in your living room with your app and make bets on everything in the NFL, NCAA, and whatever. We'll see what happens. One of the things we're going to get into in the next segment here is Notre Dame and Georgia. Big game. Of course, we get into the top 25 teams with Rick Riggen, our official college football contributor. In the last half hour is Mo from the BS Sports Show and Ed Kratz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles at SI.com. We will briefly talk about this Antonio Brown thing again. But other than that, we're going to talk about some other games. But you know, another story that I'm going to pick Rick's brain about is there's a lot of states, South Carolina, most of your SEC states, but are putting in legislation that says that you can pay college players. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I know I can understand why the NCAA would be. Obviously, that's going to cut into their pie, and they're trying to make this a legal thing, a constitutional thing, that it's illegal. It's not illegal. There's nothing in the book of law that says you can't pay a amateur sports player, because you can't. The Olympians get paid all the time. So there's some legislation that's being introduced that says, hey, these guys should be able to earn some money. I'm all for it. Trust me, I'm not the guy on the socialist bandwagon here. I'm all about capitalism. If they can make the money, make the money. But let's make it fair. I mean, let's be real. The name of Tua, for example, with Alabama, who appears that the Dolphins and maybe now the Titans are tanking for, jersey and name is going to bring a lot more revenue than a NCAA star field hockey player. I get that. Joining us now, Rick Riggen, our official college football contributor. Rick, how is you, sir? Happy Air Force anniversary to you.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, man, rocking and rolling. I've been stood up like a prom, like a guy on prom date or whatever. I knew Matthew was going to join us. I want to publicly shame Steve Embry. I've had to make our listeners pull their eyeballs out over the last hour. Just kidding. Let's get your thoughts.
So no Matthew Ebury on Notre Dame Georgia date. There's no Matthew Ebury.
I think that's the
like
reason.
Number one.
I honestly think that's the reason because he works for the flagship station WSBT. He's a producer up there, and he produces the pregame shows and a lot of stuff that he does up there. And he's also our official INDYCAR contributor. So, in all fairness, he did tell me that he's got a lot going on today. So I think that's the reason there. I think that is the actual reason. But we're going to get into this in the next segment. We'll tease it a little bit now, but it's a big game with Georgia and Notre Dame. And we're going to do this also, a conversation I was just having a little bit before you rung in, and we're going to take a break here in a minute. And that's the paying of college athletes. There's a lot of states, mostly in the SEC world, are introducing legislation that says, hey, let's make it legal to, like it was ever illegal. It's not against the law. It's not. I mean, they want to make it sound like it's against the law. That's why they brought in all these FBI investigators. And come on, we talked about this when all of this have happened with the shoe deals. There's no reason why they can't be paid. I'm all for capitalism. I think everybody knows that. But there has to be. Here's what I think. I think if you could sell a jersey, a certain portion should go to the NCAA and a certain portion should go to you. And it should be determined on what you can sell. Now, as we know, Miami Dolphins and now it appears the Tennessee Titans are tanking for Tua. He's going to bring in a lot more money than, say, a field hockey star for the Ohio State University. It's just the math. So I think the more money that you can bring, the more money that you have to give back to the NCAA. And if you can't bring any money or make any money, then you don't get paid. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think that Tennessee's tanking for anybody. I just don't think they're that good. Miami is definitely tanking for Tua, Travis Etienne, Grant Delpit from LSU, all the top names. All the top names are going to try to get in the first round next year. Just throwing that out there. But as far as the NCAA and players and this whole thing where states are trying to pass a bill now, I'm all for it. I'm 100% for it. Nothing stops the student there on an art scholarship from selling art during the year, and they make their money off that. Why can't the athletes do it too? It's not like the old NCAA anymore where, you're getting a free scholarship to play sports or whatever, so you can't make any money. I think it's dumb. I think it's outdated. I 100% support what these states are doing now.
No, I'm with you. I'm all about capitalism. And, I can't remember who it is. I honestly cannot remember who it is. But I know that somebody recently won the American Idol, won all these millions of dollars, got a record contract but she was at school